Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on This Is the Day. My name is Medrin Nyambura. Hope you've had a fantastic week. I'm excited about today's topic because you and I will get to learn about something we hear of, or somebody who's done it, but there's not really much out there about it. Today we're looking at surrogacy, an alternative route where mothers who cannot conceive the natural way will get babies and finally get one of God's best gift to us, babies. We have Dr. Amol Gadgil in studio. Thank you so much, Dr. Arif, for coming through. We also have Advocate Ayeta Lumbasio, also a bioethicist. Please, Advocate, learned friend, can you please tell us what a bioethicist is before we even start?
A bioethicist basically is someone who looks at the ethical issues of biotechnology. Okay. Things like assisted reproductive technology, genomics, what is it called? All those things that are kind of assisted, technology in relation to health.
Perfect. Yeah. So, Doctor, I'll just start with you. How do you define surrogacy for anyone who maybe this may be new to them?
Essentially, surrogacy means a woman who is willing to allow her womb to host a pregnancy which is not her own. It is by a different pair of intended parents who for some reason are not able to host their own pregnancy, require some other woman to host it, and that woman allows her womb to host that particular pregnancy, take it to term, deliver it, and hand the baby to the intended parents. Okay. That is essentially surrogacy in a nutshell, as it were.
Okay, that's a good explanation. Do we have a lot of surrogacy, parents who go that way in Kenya?
Yeah, surprisingly, there's a lot, especially since 2007. Actually, the first surrogate birth in Kenya was in August 2007. Of course, the IVF first was in May 2005. And a lot of people, when they started out, it's just the people who've been exposed. People who've been trying to do this kind of treatment outside, abroad, and all that. But now, generally, it's the middle-class people who are really, really willing to take part in these services. Okay. And then a lot of babies have been born out of surrogacy. You'll be surprised. It's almost 1,000 babies in Kenya that have been born out of surrogacy.
Wow, that's a good number. That's a lot of families.
It's been 10 years, so clearly that's a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Doctor, could you please walk us through the different kinds of surrogacies that we have?
Okay. Essentially, we can type them into two parts. One would be what is called as a traditional or a straight surrogacy. And the second is what my learned friend is talking about. Yes. And that is gestational surrogacy. Okay. Now, traditional surrogacy is a thing where the egg comes from the surrogate mother herself. And the sperm can be the intended parent, that is the father, intended father, or it can be a donor sperm. Okay. So, in a way, that particular baby would be biologically, to an extent, related to the surrogate mother. Okay. Because that egg would be coming from her. So, this is a traditional surrogacy in which we can have artificial insemination and such things, and even a donor sperm can be used for artificial insemination by donor route. Okay. So this is traditional surrogacy. What surrogacy, when we speak about in general terms, and what it implies these days, is gestational surrogacy, the one that I spoke about. That and in that there are 2 or 3 ways in which this gestation, of course, gestational surrogacy in the end would be that embryo would be housed by the surrogate mother. Yes. But it can happen in a few ways. One would be egg and the sperm coming from the intended parents. Okay. In another, the egg would be the intended parent, but the sperm would be another one. Okay. A third one would be a donor embryo. So if both these intended parents are unable to, let us say, give their own sperm or this for any reason, then a donor embryo which is frozen can be, which is matching their characteristics in a way, can be used to give that. Okay.
Let me tell you how you have a lawyer in studio. They do this. Go ahead.
I saw that.
Okay. Yes. Just one, not correction or whatever, just to clarify something. When it comes to surrogacy, the legal part of surrogacy, there must be a genetic link to either one of the parents. So you can never have a sperm donor, egg donor surrogate. As in, that is just like going to the children's home and picking a child. So the essence of surrogacy is to have someone who is genetically linked to either you or your husband. So there has to be a relation to one of them. So the idea of embryo donor and all that, that one is if you're carrying it by yourself. This is legally in Kenya and actually a lot of countries, except Ukraine and India, where they can allow a donor, you know, someone who has done using both donor gametes.
Both donors, yeah.
So there has to be, it is very clear. 3 requirements. You must be medically cleared for surrogacy. This thing of, oh, I do not want to grow fat or just vanity, it doesn't work.
Okay.
And there has to be a genetic link to one of the parents. You cannot have a baby who is not genetically related to either the man or the woman.
Okay.
And the third one is you must have an agreement drawn here in Kenya in relation to you, the intended parents, and the surrogate mother.
Okay. Yeah. And let me just follow up with this because I was going to ask you, what does this agreement look like?
Usually, can I just go back to before you even get to the agreement, there are processes. First, the basic one is the parents have to be medically cleared for surrogacy. As he has said, the woman must, you know, has medical issues. Maybe the uterus, she cannot be able to carry a pregnancy, or she does not have a uterus. Dr. Amal will tell you, will tell you that there are people who do not have uterus. And the issue of genetic link, there has to be a genetic link. Then it comes down to screening and selection process of a surrogate. The surrogate has to be screened. There are requirements to be a surrogate. I'm not sure if that is a question that you're going to ask later.
Go ahead. As I said, learned friend.
Oh.
Go ahead.
There has to be a screening process for the surrogate. As you know, the bill has not been passed yet, but it's there, and it has set down some of limited, requirements for a person to be a surrogate. Number one, she must be 25 years and above. Why 25? Because now you assume that she's psychologically able to deal with these issues. An 18-year-old is still a very young girl, even though she's mature. And then number two, she must have a child of her own. You're going to put a woman through a birth process, the whole birth process. What if, because some of these people who are actually coming for surrogacy are people who perhaps gave birth to the first child and then due to complication or whatever, the womb had to be removed.
Yes.
So what if this woman gets into complications where the womb has to be removed or it's infected or whatever? So she must have had a child of her own, and the child must be at least 3 years and above. Why 3 years? Because you're not going to put somebody through issues if they've not taken care of their baby already. The baby has to be okay first before they can be able to do that. And then they must be medically cleared, of course, the HIV testing, syphilis, and all those, and then a background check, because most of these people are actually strangers to the intended parents. Some people bring their relatives to carry for them, but most of them are strangers.
Okay.
Once that has been cleared, and these people have been cleared to do surrogacy, then they are supposed to go for a psychological test. At Nairobi IVF, we must take them through psychological counseling, pre-surrogacy counseling, for the intended parents as a couple, for the surrogate alone, and then the two parties together, so that they know what to expect during and after the surrogacy process. Then once that has been done, they have to go through the legal process. The legal process is where they have to have a legal agreement. You give them the surrogacy issues and all that, the legal issues about surrogacy, and then they do the agreement. You asked what is in the agreement. The identity of the parties.
Okay.
You're not Priska.
Priska is my head producer. I'm Medrin.
Yeah. Say Priska. Sorry, Priska. I'm not saying that you're going to get a surrogate, but your name is easier. Say Priska and her husband, perhaps John, want to, wherever. We must identify these people. That Priska and John of ID number blah blah, of PO box, residents of what, are intending to do surrogate with Ruby Ayeta Lumbasio of PO box this and this, ID number what, and then now all the things that these people have agreed. I usually tell them there's nothing small. There's no little thing that, oh, I want maternity where you can't agree, you can't put it in the agreement. This is a relationship that you're going to be in for a whole 9 months. Daktari, I'm sorry I'm taking too much of your time.
It's perfectly fine.
It's okay. We have some good time.
So this is something that is going to take a minimum of 9 months, because a pregnancy is 9 months. And the process, as Daktari will tell you, it starts way before the 9 months. you know, the stimulation and all that. So it's, I always tell them you are in a relationship for almost 12 months. So you must choose each other well, and you must agree well. And there's nothing so minute, so tiny that you shouldn't put in the agreement. So that has to be the agreement. There has to be, where is it being done? You know, you can say we are doing surrogacy at Nairobi IVF Center, at Fertility Point. It has to be very specific, because in case of an emergency, in case something goes wrong, which doctor are we going to look for? You know, as in, because this is a doctor who's taking care of you right from before even the impregnation process, so they already have your history. It has to tell you the do's and the don'ts. For example, one of the ones that I put, it's weird, but the first 2 weeks, you're not allowed to have sexual relations. You know, because this is a delicate process. Usually when you're doing the normal pregnancy, I don't have babies, but I assume during the normal pregnancy, the egg comes down, the whatever meets it up there, then they all come down and they hook. This one you're putting in, it's like water. You know, and then it's coming downward. So it's a delicate process and all that. So some people say, this is too little, kwani sita tembea, or what. But you have to put such details in the agreement. And then any other nitty-gritties. And then another requirement that I have put out of practice nowadays at Nairobi IVF Center is there has to be a guardian ad litem. What if something happens to the parents, intended parents, before the child is born?
That's true.
You see, in such situation, then the child cannot be the surrogate mothers. So in such situation, then we have to take it to the children's services, and the child will be put in a children's home, because now there has to be a guardian ad litem. If something happens to you, then this is the person who's going to take the children or the child until a legal process is done, you know. And then there's the compensation bit.
Could you hold off on that?
Okay.
Because we'll get to that, about compensation. I was going to ask you, Daktari, what are some of the situations that would lead parents to go into the surrogate way? What are some of the situations that they find themselves in that requires for them to,
Essentially, one criteria that stands out is the intended mother not being able to carry a pregnancy. Now, this can happen in various ways. Like she was trying to say earlier, what is known as a congenital anomalies. So the intended mother, to start with, may not have a uterus. There are certain clinical syndromes in which the intended mother does not have a womb to carry the pregnancy in any case, but she may have ovaries. So those ovaries can be, the eggs can be harvested from those ovaries and fertilized with the man's sperm, and that embryo generated so can be put in the surrogate mother. Now this is one way. Another, if for some reason the woman has had to lose her uterus through hysterectomy, and the reasons are many. It could be during previous childbirth, it could be due to some other injury or any other process, but the fact remains that she has had to lose her uterus for some reason. Another would be, some women do have uterus, but the uterus has got scarred from inside. The inner lining of womb, as we call it, endometrium. Now, if it has got multiple scars, a clinical entity called Asherman syndrome, let me just put it that way. Okay. So there's a clinical entity in which the uterus has got scarred beyond repair, as it were. So it simply cannot lodge a pregnancy. Now, that can happen. Then there are certain other anomalies, like uterus is there, but there are septae, which are really bad, or there are so many fibroids, multiple fibroids. And this is true in, I think, our part of the world, sub-Saharan Africa, where fibroids are known to be a very, very common situation in women. But not one or two. Now, there is again a clarification on that. The fibroids have to be really multiple, wherein removal of fibroid can significantly, seriously endanger a possibility of removal of uterus. So that is another part. So these are few of the things. Then in the previous pregnancy, if mother has had a life-threatening situation like severe preeclampsia, and there are some celebrities who have had similar experiences, let me not name them, but they have gone for surrogacy afterwards because of the real scare that they will land up with a similar situation later on. Now, these are a few of the broad indications that you can say where a woman would need some surrogate person to host her baby.
Okay. I know you feel like you're getting too much information. I promise it's not. I love how they're both breaking it down. You're getting the medical perspective and the legal perspective. If you have any questions, send them over to 20316 0786 316 316. We'll listen to a couple of songs and then we'll have this conversation and answer your questions as well. We are live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio, and I'm learning so much. I hope you are as well. We are talking about surrogacy, the process, the legal aspect. We'll also get to the point where we'll address any fears you may have or myths you've heard about the same. And we're still with Dr. Amol and Advocate Ayeta. Ayeta, yes. Let me tell you, you're destined to be great. This name, Bana. Okay. So, Dr. We've looked at a couple of reasons why it would lead to you wanting to seek a surrogate mother. So I'll ask you this. Have you been in a situation where you have a surrogate mom and they accepted, they went through the whole legal process, but when the baby was born, they felt, this is my child, I carried them. Have you been in such situations?
There have been situations, and particularly in traditional surrogacy, this has happened where the egg actually comes from the surrogate mother. Yes, and it has in the past has happened in gestational surrogacy also, but with the legal framework being so tight, particularly in India regarding this, of course the rules are getting even further tighter about artificial reproductive technology. Well, there is an emotional situation for the mother, but for the surrogate mother. But once it is understood clearly by both the parties that yes, this is going to be a baby which is not going to be her own, well, you really need a counselor in that way, particularly immediately after delivery, because that is the time when that woman feels very strongly about that particular bond. Okay. So we really need a psychologist and a counselor in that way to counsel her again and stress the point that yes, you have delivered, but please, this baby needs to be with somebody else. And there is a gradual acceptance, believe me. I mean, there has been no such case that I have seen or come across where the mother really went to great lengths, the surrogate mother, to stake a claim on the baby because of previous this thing. And then, as I said, there is a general acceptance to start with that yes, I am housing this for somebody, and then it becomes easier for them to adjust to the fact that okay, once they deliver this baby, it's going to be taken away.
Let me ask. When you say that through the process you will insist on the psychological counseling that needs to happen to prepare them, maybe just shed light on the same on whether there are mothers who felt, which would be understandable though, where you've carried this baby for 9 months and then on the day you're like, okay, bye, and you go home without a child.
Well, you first of all, you started psychologically prepared before the embryo transfer is even made. So psychological is pre-surrogacy and post-surrogacy, as Dr. has said, when you've just given birth. So you start being prepared early that this is not going to be your baby and you are actually not even genetically related to the baby. You may bond during the pregnancy period, but at the end of the day, you're going to give up this child without even perhaps even breastfeeding or even looking at the child or seeing the child. So I think you wanted to know about the psychological wherever.
Yes, I know that you've had situations where mothers have struggled.
At Nairobi IVF, so far we've not had any. Maybe because the ladies who come there already are psychologically prepared without even going for psychological analysis, that they're just coming here for, to gain something out of it, because it's a win-win situation both for the intended parents and the surrogate, because the surrogate will be economically empowered through the process, a compensation of some sort is given, and the mother and the mother and father, the intended parents, are going to have a child at the end. I've had situations where people at 8 months call you and they're like, oh, Ruby, I'm attached to the baby. What happens? Whatever. In such situations, I kindly ask them, can you come back to the center and then see the psychologist? And then we have a male psychologist, and then he takes them through the whole process again, and they agree, and they are allowed to come as many times as possible for psychological counseling, even if it means every day. they have to come so that they are at peace with giving out the child.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was sharing with you earlier how we assume, getting a child is get married, get pregnant, get babies, and move on. But there are mothers who are really, really struggling out here. Dr. Is there any contact biologically between the surrogate mom and the baby that maybe would compromise the health of the child?
Not really, because once an embryo is formed, it is in a way, a complete cell, a complete human being.
Okay.
Okay. Though it is a cellular structure to start with. Okay. So in a way, there is no real biological connection, except for obviously the placenta and so forth. But beyond that, there is really no biological connection or of any sort, or genetic transmission of material.
Okay.
If it were the concern.
Yes.
Of any sort between the surrogate mother and the baby that she is housing.
Okay.
So that is, and another thing, coming to the health issues, when a surrogate mother is selected, it is explicitly, she is explicitly chosen when she is clear of practically any health issues. Preferably she is under the age of 35 and has given birth to at least one child which is surviving. So, like she said, 3 years of age.
Yes.
Okay. So, in a way that we are also avoiding any medical complications. I mean, to a large extent, you cannot avoid 100%, but yes. Medical complications like preeclampsia and so forth in the surrogate, because she has already given birth once and the subsequent pregnancies are likely to be more uneventful.
Okay.
That is the way. I mean, that is the way a mother is selected. So by selection of mother, you are really taking care of more than half the problems, as it were.
Okay, that takes away some of the fears. Let's talk about the money. And the reality is, and I was telling you, I was reading up on this and found that there are mothers, surrogate mothers, who will do this for the money, and maybe that's where the ethics comes in. You'll give more clarity on that. But the money, how much are you paid again? What's the range?
It's not payment. Let's use the correct terms. It's compensation. You're just being compensated for time taken out of your daily duties to help somebody gestate a child.
Okay.
You can never put an amount to how much you can actually pay somebody to give birth. But that being said, there's usually, initially from experience, we've been at it since 2007. Nairobi IVF actually was the first IVF center in Kenya. So from experience, we realized that there are people who want to exploit some of these ladies. As we were discussing earlier, I think I mentioned that most of these ladies who want to be gestational surrogates are from the lower, I can't call it lower class, we have middle, higher, and wherever. So they're actually here because they know at the end of the day I'm going to get something out of it. So to do that, as Nairobi IVF Center decided that you cannot do a minimum of like 400,000. That is just compensation. That one was arrived at maybe 1,000 bob per day for a whole year. As Dr. will tell you, this is a process that takes almost a year. So that is like 365,000. And then there has to be some monthly upkeep. I do not quite recommend that. You can compensate the person as much as you want, because, but as long as it does not go below 400,000.
Okay.
Because let's face it, what are you going to do with 400,000? And it's not a commercial. In Kenya, we are not allowed to do commercial surrogacy. In places like India, where commercial surrogacy was actually allowed, they would advertise, I'm willing to be a surrogate. Can you give me like 6 million? Or 500,000 or wherever, but here it's not. So when you bring somebody and this, you have to like negotiate between the two of you. It's a negotiation process.
Okay.
This is how much I need. I'm paying school fees for my babies. I'm doing this. I need to survive on this. So can I be having like a monthly upkeep of this and this amount? And can I get a compensation of this amount?
Okay. Does the legal agreement that is there between the parents, the intending parents and the surrogate mom, does it cover any, again, just to cover your base, to make sure there's no blackmail afterwards? Is it covered that once the 365 days are done, we are actually done?
Yeah, actually the agreement lapses once you have either given birth or the surrogate has died, unfortunately.
Okay.
Because if it's a gestational surrogate agreement, you know. So if you're not gestating, then there's no arrangement, there's no agreement there. So once you have finished and that's it, because what happens is when you're getting your child, you know, when you go and give birth, as Dr. will tell you, when I give birth for Priska and John, Priska, sorry.
This is so good.
Yeah. when I gestate for Priska and John and give birth to the child,
yes,
I who brings forth the child into the world, I'm considered the mother.
Okay.
So, and as you know, in hospitals here in Nairobi, or not just in Nairobi, in Kenya, I believe, all hospitals, you're given a birth notification slip. That is the thing that you use to register your child. So my name will appear on the birth notification slip as the person who brought forth the child. So for it to, so what I always encourage these people, so that there's no blackmail, there's no whatever. By the time you're going to the hospital to pick your baby, exchange the birth notification slip with the bank slip. You know, you finished and you finished.
Okay.
So just go your way. There's no blackmail, because these people really don't get to interact. You don't get to interact and know each other's extreme personal things, you know.
Okay.
Because it's us who are introducing you to this surrogate. It's us who is introducing you to this intended parent. So you just get to know what is necessary, the medical aspect, the psychological aspect, the wherever. I'm giving you this, you know, I'm compensating you here and there. So when I give birth, and the birth notification slip, so take your wherever, give you my wherever. So that way we have never had any blackmail issues.
Okay, that's a good thing. For Dr. maybe the other question would be, for the mother who's given birth, and maybe sometimes there are complications and all that, and they've already exchanged again the notification slip and the bank slip, should anything happen after birth, is that catered for by the intending parents?
If something that is related to that birth process per se, it would be.
Okay.
Because it is part of continuation. Typically, in maternity, we consider first 6 weeks, that is 42 days.
Okay.
Okay, so in first 42 days, and I am very specific about it, if it is related to birth processes. It could be puerperal sepsis, it could be postpartum hemorrhage, secondary postpartum hemorrhage, it could be pelvic infection, anything. And if it can be sourced or tracked to the birth process, then the intended parents would have to be the persons bearing medical costs of the medical treatment.
Okay.
But if something is unrelated, let us say malaria, which is very typical.
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me. So that really is not related to the birth process in a way. So that the intended parents can refuse, and they would be perfectly within their rights to do so.
Okay.
Okay. But anything else? Well, yes.
You have to cater for it, yes?
Let me just add on what he's saying. Even in the agreement, it is very clear that you're just, you know, you're paying for the cost to get pregnant, cost of delivery, and cost of taking care of the surrogate until 6 weeks after delivery. So as he said, anything that is related to the wherever, it's just not intended, it's just by word of mouth or wherever, it is actually in the agreement. It has to be taken care of by the intended parents.
That's really courteous. It's to, you know, given what the mom has done for you, but I was a bit worried. What happens if you get a complication? So let me ask you, Ayeta, are there surrogate moms and intending parents who choose to remain anonymous? Does that happen?
Yes. Actually, most of them choose to remain anonymous. As you know, IVF, assisted reproductive technology, as I always say, we are getting into bed with people who, this is usually a normal process. People go to bed and do their thing and get pregnant. But now if you come to be assisted, you know, surrogacy is just an offshoot of IVF, you know, medically assisted reproduction. So it's just an offshoot. So you're involving other people. So a lot of people do not really want to be known that they went through the process. And in fact, even some of the surrogates do not even want to be known that they carried for somebody else. I've heard of surrogates who tell me, once I get pregnant, I'm just going to tell my people, I've gone to Bahrain to work for a year, you know, so that I can move somewhere, say Ongata Rongai, give birth to the woman who have pregnancy, her babies or her baby, and then I go back to my life so that no one knows. And the intended parents, especially this wherever comes in for the intended parents, most women, as you know, in African society, a woman pride comes with birth, giving birth. Once you've been married, we expect you to have children. Once you have your firstborn, we start asking, when are you getting your second born? You know, it just goes on and on. So if the process, when it comes to a process where Dr. has said maybe you do not have a uterus, or you cannot even carry a pregnancy, or if you carry a pregnancy, you cannot sustain it up to birth, and it's a depressing time for you. And the African society wants to know, it's not just we saw you with a baby. We want to know the process. Oh, she's pregnant. Oh, she's 6 months. Oh, we are doing a baby shower. Oh, we've gone to hospital, you know? So some of them want to feel all that. So, but lately I've noticed that a lot of people are embracing this. Some even throw baby showers for the surrogate mother. Yeah, I've had 2 or 3 couples who've thrown baby showers for the surrogate mothers. And some do not want even to be known they went through a surrogacy process at all. So they will want to, you know, there are those things that you can put on your stomach, so that 1 month it shows, then 5 months, wherever, and then when you disappear for a week or 2 and you come back with a baby, we are like, oh yeah, she gave birth to.
I hear you. Doctor, you wanted to add something?
I was just going to add to her comment about African societies. And I think that applies to Indian society as well. And I was just talking to her before, and she has been in some parts of India, so she would possibly agree with me that yes, as soon as a marriage is gone through, within a few months the family elders would start asking, oh, when are you giving us the good news?
Oh, Lord, yes.
And then that really starts building up the pressure in a way. And that is one reason, if a couple, for whatever reason, chooses to delay, or unfortunately a pregnancy gets delayed in that particular couple, then it builds up a lot of societal pressure. And then they start seeking these options, of course, fertility options. I'm not restricting myself only to surrogacy in that way, but that is how it starts. So societies really think alike in many ways.
Yes, because you're all human at the end of the day. Yes. There's somebody who's asked a quick question for Dr. I'll be passing that on. But first, let's listen to Zach Williams with the song One Church Choir. If you have any questions or any myths that you're going to address much later, if you have them, you can already text them and we'll answer that. We're live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio. Thank you for the questions. More people are still learning a lot. There's somebody who said, thank you so much for this conversation. Let me tell you, sometimes you need to talk about it. It's important. So I have a question for Dr. Ari. Somebody recognizes you from Life Care Bungoma.
Yes.
And they're saying hello.
Thank you. My hello to the person.
Yes, and they're saying they live in Bungoma. What are some of the options that are available that they can settle on surrogacy?
Options as in?
They've asked, what are some of the options that are available at Life Care before I settle on surrogacy?
Currently in Life Care Bungoma, what we are offering, in our Bungoma facility rather, what we are offering is intrauterine insemination. That is a very basic situation as far as fertility treatment goes. And we are offering some fertility enhancement surgeries very shortly, when we are coming up with our state-of-the-art modular theatre. While we have our own center in Nairobi called Fertility Point in Upper Hill, where we are offering even the state-of-the-art situations for IVF ICSI, and we are also shortly going into surrogacy for that. But short of surrogacy and short of IVF, I would say we are offering things in Bungoma Life Care at present as things go on.
So, and maybe if they know where you are, they can actually come to you.
Oh, seriously, it would be a welcome thing.
Ayeta, let me ask, some of the myths you've heard about surrogacy and you thought, come on. What are some of them?
Well, the one that just comes to mind when you said that is a lady, after going through the whole process, counseling, everything, you know, checking out the doctor, and we've done an agreement, then she comes back and asks me, I'll say in Kiswahili because she asked me in Kiswahili. So itabidi nilale na huyu mwanaume ndio nipate hiyo mimba. I'm thinking, is that how we are going to do it? So I'm thinking, she's not even understood. So some people actually think that it has to be a traditional surrogacy. And as Dr. Ari said, there are 2 types of surrogacy. The traditional one, maybe the Christians will know the traditional one from the Haggai and Sarah thing, where I take my servant, sleep with her, and let's have a baby. So you can actually do it the natural way, or do the whole process of IVF, but the one we're talking about is the gestational surrogate. So people always think, number one, that they may have to be related to the child. They'll be related to the child because of the bonding and all that. Since I'm carrying the baby, I'm going to be related to the baby. No, as Dr. Ray said, it's not, you're not genetically related to the child.
Okay.
The egg and the sperm which creates the embryo are the ones which carry all the genetic material that the child will have. And since we got them from the intended parents or the donors, then that is what the genetic material they have. Another thing that people always assume is it's an unnatural way of doing things. You know, it's ungodly or unchristian.
Oh, you're in our backyard right now. Yes.
Or and Muslim and Islam, you know, whatever religion, wherever you come from. So what I always tell them is, if God actually created you and you are and said, go out there and fill the world, the children are a gift from God and all that, and for some reason you're not able to do it naturally, then I'm assuming that he also created the doctors, like Dr. Amul and the rest, and gave them the knowledge and the information so that they can help you. So surrogacy may actually be the answer that you've been waiting for to start or continue your family, you know, instead of just waiting to get pregnant and do it. And then another thing is that it's an extremely expensive process.
Yes.
It is an expensive process, but it is manageable. You can never put a price on this issue because, as I said, surrogacy is an offshoot of IVF. So you will be doing two processes. You'll be doing the IVF process, and out of it, when we harvest the egg and the sperm and fertilize and create embryos, then now we will do the surrogacy process. They do as in tandem, side by side, but it's two processes. So of course you'll spend quite an amount, but it is manageable at the end of the day. So those are some. Maybe Dr. Ari has others, because the myths in this process are usually you hear one today and you think this is not happening, and then tomorrow something actually happens. And another one, the one for maybe sisters who want to surrogate for each other, and they feel that, so my husband is going to leave me and go to my sister, marry my sister, or my husband is going to leave me and marry the surrogate because they're expecting the baby, not realizing that it's you who actually gave out the egg.
The egg, yes.
Did whatever. So it's not even a myth. I think it's just a fear.
It's a fear. Okay. Dr. Ari, anything to add on that?
About the myths and the fears?
Yes.
Yes. Well, as far as the expense part goes, well, to start with, it was, and even today, as she says, the expenses have become manageable, and you cannot really put a figure on the joy of holding a baby in that way. Then previously, again, it was because somebody, some particular, let us say, high society woman wants to preserve her body, I mean, figure, etc., etc., and so she wants to have a surrogate. That's really not the case.
Okay.
Surrogacy really comes into play because it's a long process where you have to, I mean, I'm just going into a bit of details, because where the hormonal cycles for the surrogate as well as the intended mother, they have to come in unison, they have to come in harmony, and it is only then that harmony is of course brought through medicines and injections, etc. And it is only then that we can go ahead with the process of IVF, ICSI, and then the embryo can be transferred, because the surrogate mother's womb has to be also receptive, and that is what really adds to the whole costing thing.
Okay.
And once you consider these factors, of course, like she said, you have to take care of the upkeep of that mother through, and so in a way, cost factor is justified if you look at it from this point of view, that you are really treating two women simultaneously to go through the whole process. And in coming to the other part about taking care of the surrogate throughout her pregnancy, in many countries, particularly if I remember correctly, RCOG has given guidelines that the obstetrician and gynecologist looking after the surrogate through her pregnancy should be a different person than the one who is who actually did the IVF process, so that there is no conflict of interest between the to situations. So, so these things keep, the small things keep adding up bit by bits here and there, and those things really need to be understood. And the other thing about societal, like sister thinking that if the couple has been counseled properly, and if both the partners are aware as to what processes they're going through, or rather they will be going through, then this will really not be a situation.
Okay, let me tell you, I'm so grateful you came. So much clarity. You're taking away the fears. So if, say, I've planned for a baby, what year are we in? 2018? If I want to get a baby 2021 or 2022, how early should I come see you if I want to take the surrogacy way?
Well, because you have to choose your surrogate early, way before you even start your IVF process, as Dr. has told you, the menses have to be synchronized at some point, because of the stimulation process and then the preparation of the womb for the surrogate. So you have to choose the surrogate much earlier. So a period of between 3 to 6 months is ideal, basically because you will interview as many girls as you want. Girls present themselves that we would like to be surrogates, and something like that. And we have to do a background check on them, medical check on them, all that. That takes almost like a whole month. And then after that, before you even meet your surrogate, you talk to as many people as possible so that you can, unless you came with your own surrogate. But if you want maybe the center to give you a surrogate, we introduce you to at least 3 minimum, and as many as you would like, so that you talk to them personally, you interact, you see this one suits me, this one wherever, and then once you have taken, you may talk to a surrogate who has started her period today or tomorrow, and treatment starts on the 2nd day of your period, if I'm not wrong, Dr. So that one cannot start the process because you've just met and you have to go through the psychological analysis, the legal process. So the earliest that one can start is next month, and then now they will synchronize. So give yourself at least 3 months so that you can be able to choose, you can be able to synchronize your processes, you can be able to do the psychological analysis, the legal processes, and all that. And most importantly, so that you can come to an agreement as human beings. You have a relationship, so that once you are in agreement that Ruby is caring for Friska. Friska, you're in trouble.
What have you been told by the Lord?
Then we have to be friends. Not necessarily friends, but we have to have some kind of
chemistry,
chemistry before we start.
Let me just follow up with this. The surrogate moms will not seek any compensation. They are happy to do it. Do we have a lot of those?
Yes, a lot. Not necessarily relatives. Actually, the ones who don't seek compensation usually are just friends or wherever. And that is called altruistic surrogacy, where you are not given any kind of compensation. They don't even get any, as long as the intended parents just pay for the medical process, the delivery process, and any things that come up. But there are many. They come and they want out of their good heart, or I've seen my sister suffering for long, I would like to help her. I've seen my friend suffering for long, I would like to help her. And usually from a psychological point of view and even a legal point of view, those are usually the best. Because the harmony there is fantastic. These people actually take care of the pregnancy as if it's their own. When it comes even to the delivery process and all that, it's always fantastic. Because this is somebody who has literally taken themselves out to help you.
Bless their hearts. Dr. Are there situations where somebody's still on the fence about surrogacy? Maybe they've waited 10, 15 years of marriage and no child is forthcoming. Maybe there are miscarriages and they're still wondering, is this the best way to go about it? Obviously, you believe in the process from your experience and expertise. What would you tell such a couple?
Such a couple, first up, they have to go through their own history as far as their fertility is concerned. And in that, if they find that nothing has really benefited them in a way, because there are couples where even IVF cycles have failed. If people have undergone 2 and 3 IVF cycles and they still have failed. Now, such are the people who are really, in a way, desperate to get a pregnancy, but still they're not convinced.
Yes.
But if we tell them that you have already ended up spending so much on this particular thing, and now since your womb for whatever reason is unable to go through the process, it will be your own baby, except that the house will be different. I mean, if we put it in that those simplistic terms, I think they are better able to relate to it, so that they accept. Yes, the acceptance does come, because at the end of the whole process, they need a baby.
That's true.
That is the bottom line as far as they are concerned. And if we say yes, because in today's date, if we choose the surrogate mother carefully and everything, believe me, the success rates in surrogates are as high as 50 or even 60% in some of the centers. Though world over, the statistics is anywhere around 45 to 50. So which is really, really good.
That's really good. Yes.
So even that is one more convincing thing about for the fence sitters, as it were.
Yes, who are still considering it.
They should be opting for it.
Okay. Dr. Amal Gadgil, thank you. Advocate Ayeta Lumbasio, thank you so much for coming. Also a bioethicist. We're actually out of time, but I'm so grateful. Thank you for the clarity. You made it very easy to understand. And maybe for the couple out there who've been considering this, hope you have enough information to make a decision. But thank you so much for always watching the show Monday through Friday. We totally appreciate you. We'll see you next week. For now, have a fantastic weekend.